Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. So thankful for you to join me today. We have a legend, and as you can tell, I'm starting the intro a little differently because I just want to just jump in as soon as possible, just because we do have Udo Erasmus on the show. You are very familiar with his products. You probably have actually purchased them in the past. His oils are famous. They're in every Whole Foods in the world. They're pretty every store that is doing right in the health and wellness space is of purchaser of this man's oil. He's just amazing, and this story is tremendous. And he always comes with such excellent energy. And he was on this podcast, Burns Fat, as well, and really just breaking down all these wonderful things that are becoming more popular now, especially because of people's understanding of oils and seeds and stuff like that. It's becoming a topic of conversation. So, yeah, really excited to bring him to the audience. As always, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. It goes a super long way for me to have guests of this stature on the podcast. So, let's jump into the show. Hey, Udo, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, I'm Omar. I am doing excellent.
You
You know,
look
for an old guy, I'm going to be 83 in May. So
You know what? I had you on this podcast, Burns Fat, and when you said I think you were like 81 then, and we were saying how good you look back then. So nothing's
yeah,
changed. So you're not aging a day. So you're doing something right.
I'm doing. Yeah, the other day I climbed a ladder up 10 trees to take some ropes out of the trees,
Oh my
and I'm
goodness.
standing on top of the ladder, and one of the guys is looking out of his apartment. He says, "Jesus, what is Udo doing up here? He's an old guy. He shouldn't be doing stuff like this." It was really fun. It was really fun. I'm careful, because I don't feel like I don't like falling off ladders. I've
Yeah.
already done that when I was younger, right? But it needed to be done, and it was completely safe. I had a guy who stood on the bottom of the ladder. We made sure the ladder was solid, and then he had to lean it against the tree, and so it can turn because it's not on a flat surface. But it's just everything is very deliberate. I can get very focused. So
Hmm.
there was not a drop of adrenaline in doing it, and
Wow.
we got it done. We took ropes out of trees in and off of the top of that ladder. I think we did 10 trees in an hour and a half.
Wow. That's that's great. I would not be doing that. That's
Well, the night before, I was thinking, maybe I shouldn't be doing it. I'm 82, it's like so. But but all of that is I look at all of the options, all of what's possible, all of what could go wrong,
Mhm.
and then I'm alert to what I need to do it safely.
That's
But
good.
I had that time like in bed thinking about what I was going to do, right?
Yeah.
But then when I went and did it, no adrenaline, no nothing, just doing it, focused, very focused. All I needed was a pair of scissors to cut the ropes, and the guy standing on the ladder on the bottom so that it had some weight on it,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
just on top, right? And it was really fun, except my ass really hurt the next day, and my pecs too, right here.
Well, thank God, a lot more could have been hurt if you were a little bit
If I'd have fallen down, that would not have been good.
exactly,
Yeah. But
exactly.
if but I'm not a daredevil that way. It's like if I went up there and I said, I would say no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not
because nobody wants me not to fall off a ladder more than me.
right.
I do not want to fall off a ladder. I will not fall off a ladder.
Yeah,
If I think I'm going to fall off the ladder, I won't go up.
exactly. All right.
Right? It's not this. It's not testosterone driven. It's kind of like fun though. It's adventure. That was a good adventure. I'd never done something like that.
Okay.
Right? And it was it was good. You know. So
Awesome.
they were all very impressed. Wow, this old guy. He's doing this thing. But I'm pretty good. I do quite a bit of gardening and take trees down, and you know still have some biceps in here over here somewhere.
Nice, nice. Yeah, now
Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
like I said, you look great, and you
Yeah.
keep it going. And of course, we had a great conversation off the air, so hopefully we get to touch on a little bit about that because I brings all of your essence together. And
Yeah.
like I said, a big fan, like I mentioned before. I saw your products in Whole Foods many, many years ago. I've probably been getting stuff from your brand forever. So I want the audience to get to know you a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
Once they hear who you are, they go, oh, they probably bought your stuff too. So it's one
Yeah.
of those kind of things. It's been
Some of them
around.
might have.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. This is a health conscious podcast, so everybody,
Yeah.
health coach probably has ran into it. So it just like a lot of health coaches who get into this particular space, we get into it because we had to overcome something in our health world that we just started to we want to share. So
Is
that
that's is that isn't that where most good learning begins?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, a self-made health disaster or something. I
Ex-
got poisoned by pesticides because I was really careless, right?
Well, that's what I want you to jump into. Tell us that
That's where it
story.
started. Yeah,
Yeah, let's
that's where
hear how it
they.
started.
Yeah, that's where the health started for me. But going further back, I was born during the Second World War in Poland, which was then part of Germany, and I was 2.5 years old when the war ended, and we were refugees fleeing out of Poland to Germany with the communists chasing us in tanks and trucks
Mm,
on dirt roads with no military presence, in horse-drawn hay wagons, mothers with young children. That's it. That was all was on the road. And the Allies, which we like to think of as the good guys, right? Second World War, right? There was the bad guys, the Nazis,
mhm.
and there was the good guys, the Allies.
Yeah.
Well, the Allies were using us refugees as target practice, and they
No.
were shooting at us from planes. So my mother went off the road. It was in winter. She wanted to go off the roads because the roads were not safe. It was safer to go through the snow-covered covered fields.
Mm,
But she had 6 kids with her, and she couldn't take 6 kids across the fields. So she took 2 and left 4 behind. So I got left behind. So I ended up in an orphanage for a bit. And then her sister found out what happened, and she found us and reunited us with the family. I just remember, you know, not feeling safe, not knowing what I could trust, because every day we were told something different because it was so chaotic, right? It's a crazy place to raise kids, is in a refugee war zone, it's like.
yeah.
And we ended up in Germany, and I would listen to adults argue like so intensely, just like the same way they do now, adults.
Mhm.
And it would always make me really uneasy. And one day it occurred to me, man, there must be a way that human beings can live in harmony. And this little cocky voice of a 6-year-old that doesn't know how complicated everything is said, oh, and I'm going to find out how.
Mm.
So that's been my life story. It's really been driven by that event,
Wow.
by what I went through. And then, and different parts of my life story. I like doing projects, and almost every project that I've done has come from a disaster
Hmm.
that got my attention. So when it comes to the stuff I've done with oils, that started. My marriage broke up. I wanted to kill something. I was really upset because I thought marriage was supposed to be for life.
Hmm.
And I got a job as a pesticide sprayer. I wanted to kill something. Pesticides are made only to kill things.
Mm.
So I got very focused killing things. And it was like weeds and insects and funguses, herbicides, pesticides, right?
Hmm.
And was really, really careless. And after 3 years of being really careless, I got poisoned by the pesticides I was using to poison other creatures.
Hmm.
And I went to the doctor and said, well, what do you have for pesticide poisoning? And she said, nothing.
Mm.
Bingo, penny dropped. Oh, my health is my responsibility. It really is my responsibility. I mean, I knew it in theory, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's different when you have a real problem to deal with, right? And so I had background in biological sciences and biochemistry, genetics, because I was a science geek,
Hmm.
because I wanted to know what life is. So I was into the biological sciences, because you look around and say, like, all these living things we're surrounded by, and they're all different, and they're all capable of doing things, and they look different, and they act different, and they grow different. and the flowers are different colors, and the branches are different strengths. And it's just like you look at this, it's like, this is fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
What is it that creates all this? And I wanted to know what life is, because life creates all that, right? They're all signs of life. So I went into the biological sciences. We never found out what life is there, but we learned a lot about form and function. Anyway, I had the background. I decided, okay, now I got to figure out what health is and how to get myself healthy. And I went into Medline, the database, had 16 million studies posted there.
Mm.
And of those, 300,000 were on 600,000 were on nutrition. And I was looking at everything that had to do with nutrition and health, nutrition and disease, because I knew the body's made out of food. And when something goes wrong with the body, then all you need to do is raise your standard for food intake. And in 1 year, 98% of the atoms in your body will have been removed and replaced.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1 year, you will have rebuilt your body 98% to a higher standard. That's what healing is about.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to heal? Raise your standard. It's actually that simple. And you can do it in terms of your food intake, your water intake, your air intake, your exposure to sunlight, which is your life, right? And then also who you hang out with, what kind of people, are they encouraging and empowering, or are they always beating down on you? And how clean you keep your environment. And so I started looking at all of that. I ended up in the area of fats because it was so confusing. I read a study that said omega-6 is an essential nutrient. And what that means is you have to have it. You can't make it in your body from anything else. And so you have to bring it in from outside, because you can't make it. That's number one. Number two is if you don't get enough, you cannot stay healthy. Your health will go down. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die. These are like the really cornerstone of the body construction. And the third part is if you're going down because you're not getting enough of an essential nutrient, but before you die, and that's because death by definition is not reversible, right? If it's reversible, you didn't die, right?
Right.
So if you bring enough back of what's missing before you die, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed, because life knows what to do, provided you take responsibility. We take responsibility here at our mouth to make sure all of the essential building blocks that life requires land in the body so it can use them to make the body. And that definition of essential applies to 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids, 2 essential fatty acids. And so I'm reading the study. It says omega-6 is an essential nutrient. Can't make it, gotta have it, gotta get it from outside. If you don't get enough, you go down. If you don't get enough long enough, you die. But if you bring enough back before you die, you get your health back. That's right. So omega-6 is one of those. And the very next study I wrote says omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And I'm going, what? That doesn't make any sense. I have to eat it so it can kill me. Right? It's like that saying, God loves you unconditionally, but if you look at him, he kills you. That's what we were told when we were kids.
Yeah.
Right? It's like somebody's making something up here. Something's not right. Right? And this contradiction made me look deeper. Said I must be missing something. Either somebody's lying, and I didn't assume at that point that they were lying. So I said, I must be missing something. There must be something here that makes that explainable. And so I looked into how oils are made and found out that in order to make oil, well, first of all, oils are the most sensitive of all our essential nutrients. They're damaged by light, by oxygen, by heat. They need the most care of any of our essential nutrients, but we actually give them the least care. We fry them. And in the frying pan, they're damaged by light, oxygen, and heat all at the same time. And that's frying is the dumbest thing we've ever invented to do to food if health is our goal, right? So really sensitive. But the industry wanted a shelf life on these oils because then they could make it in New York where you are and could sell it on the West Coast where I am, and in Tokyo, and in Johannesburg, and in Berlin, right? And in Shanghai, right? So, but for that, you have to have a long shelf life because you got to ship it and store it. So how do you get a good shelf life? Well, they found out that if you treat the oil with sodium hydroxide, which is a very corrosive base that you know as Drano, that's what you unplug your sink pipes when they clog up. Very, very corrosive. Then they treat it with phosphoric acid, very corrosive acid. Then they bleach it with bleaching clays. That makes it go rancid. And then to clean up the rancidity that makes the oil smell bad, they have to deodorize it. And to do that, they have to heat the oil to frying temperature for half an hour to blow off the rancid molecules. And when they do that, 0.5 to 1% of the oil molecules are damaged. They're turned from something that existed in nature, that life knows how to deal with because life developed in nature around natural things. Well, now it turns into something that never existed in nature, that life never made a breakdown program for. And because it doesn't make a breakdown program and it's no longer a natural molecule, when it gets in your body, it occupies space in your body that should be occupied by a natural molecule, but it takes its place and it can't do what needs to be done in that space. And so it interferes with your biochemical, biological processes. And if you do that long enough, there's going to be so many places in your body that are being blocked by these damaged molecules that you're going to get symptoms of something not working, right? So then I thought, okay, well, 0.5 to 1% of the molecules are damaged. That's not good. I think, I didn't like that. So I decided to check out, why are they doing this? They know it does damage because I got that out of their journals. Why are they damaging the oil? So I called the Oil Chemist Society, the umbrella organization for the oil industry. They're in Champaign, Illinois. And I said, I want to talk to one of the researchers because I wanted to talk to a science geek, not a sales rep, right? And they put him on the line, and I said, well, when you know that the way you make the oil damages it, why do you do that? He said, well, one of the reasons we do that is because we can get rid of about half the pesticides in the oil. It's another one of those things. I've been poisoned by pesticide. That was not good news. I didn't even know there were pesticides in oils at that time, right? Nobody ever told us. I studied lipids, fats in university. Nobody ever talked about pesticides in cooking oils, right? So I didn't say that to him, though, because, he hadn't been poisoned by pesticides. But I asked him, well, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? Then you have no pesticide problem to deal with. And there was this long silence at the other end of the phone. And I waited because I obviously I can talk, but I know how to listen too. So I waited, and I don't know, it seemed like a really long time. Might have been only 3 seconds, but it seemed like a long silence. And when he came back, he was really angry. He said, I don't know what your problem is. The oil's only 1% damaged. It's 99% good. And if you got 99% on an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? So now I'm backing off. I said, well, yeah, it's only 1%. Although I wasn't impressed with the 99 because in genetics, I used to get 100% because I loved the topic and I was really good at it. And I even in my pesticide sprayer exam, I got 99.5%. So his 99 was not as impressive to me as it maybe was for him. So who knows? I didn't go into that, right?
Right.
And then I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm overreacting. It's only 1%. In a way you say, oh, well, it's 99% good. It's only 1% bad. That's pretty good, right? So I said, okay, there's a saying, when in doubt, do the math. So I decided to find out if I take a tablespoon of an oil that has been treated the way industry treats them and is 1% damaged, how many damaged molecules are going to be in that tablespoon of oil? And it's a question I'm going to ask you. I just asked you that question. So give me a number, a guess. And the thing is, the reason why I do it is because we don't have the background to figure out the math.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. It's really
Okay.
brief because I didn't learn much from statistics. I didn't learn much in college, but I remember this thing in statistics, right?
Yeah.
It was an example, like kind of what you're alluding to. It was, like the Lysol spray.
Yeah.
It says it kills 99.9% of the germs.
Yeah.
And what is that 0.01 or whatever that is? And
How
you
many
think,
germs will that be?
yeah, and it was like a trillion germs.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where you're going with this because when
I-
I was like, yeah, the Lysol is gonna kill everything, blah blah blah. But yeah, that 0.01 was there's a bazillion.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
am
It's
I
the same
close?
thing when you do a mouthwash. It kills 99.9% of the bad breath bacteria.
Yeah.
Well, then how come your breath is so bad in the morning?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason is because they double every 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't swallow when you're asleep. So those rot bacteria are eating your mouth,
Right. 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 Right.
right?
Right.
And then if you do the math on that, which I like doing math, right? When you wake up in the morning, you will have 32 to 64 times more bad breath bacteria in your mouth than you had before you brushed your teeth in the evening.
Wow.
That's why it's so bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, honey, I want to talk to you, but I got to brush my teeth first. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I did it, and when I asked this question, people always estimate. Well, no, give me a number. So you already primed for it, but give me a number.
I say a billion.
Billion? Okay, billion has how many zeros? 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so your number is, you should add a 6 in front of it, and then it's 10 zeros too low.
10 zeros too low?
10 zeros too low.
Wow. Okay.
And 10 zeros is like, that's 60 billion times. Your estimate is 60 billion times too low. Now, why I say that is the people who listen to your podcast, they don't know it either. When I ask the question, nobody has ever, when they didn't already know this story, nobody has ever guessed less than a billion times too low.
Mm.
It's always so what, and the reason why I do this is goes like this. You use these oils and you think, oh, 1% is not a big deal. Oh, you don't even think, maybe there isn't even any damage because you don't even think about it, right? But you take, for every tablespoon of oil that you take in, you get 60 quintillion damaged molecules into your body. That's more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells.
Wow.
And then you do that for 30 years. So now you got to multiply that number by about 11,000, the number of days in 30 years. And you use it for frying, you have to multiply the number by 3 to 6 times. And there's pesticides in the oil, and there's plastic in the oils.
Mm.
Because oils leach plastic, and oils swell plastics. And plastic leaches into oils quicker than into water. So all of this has happened. And then you say, okay, well, then something goes wrong, and you say, I don't know why I got this problem. I always ate good, because you didn't know what I'm just telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't know that you're doing more than 1 billion times more damage to yourself by using these oils than you thought you were doing. That's why I asked the math question, right?
Yeah.
And is that enough? I was in Ireland and said, well, if you were at the airport and you were going to fly home and you had your boarding card and this guy tapped you on the shoulders, Mr. Tell the Truth, right? He only ever tells the truth. He says, by the way, did you know that on this flight home, your chance of crashing and dying is 1 billion times higher than you thought it was. Would you get on the airplane? And I told him in Ireland I would canoe back to Canada. I would not get on the airplane. And the point is that maybe is that reason for you to rethink using oils, frying foods, and using oils damaged by industry in your food that you're eating because you're trying to be healthy? You say, no, I think that needs to change. Cook in water, eat raw. Don't fry your food in oils. It's the dumbest thing we've invented. Get your frying pan, whack yourself upside the head with it, and then throw that stupid thing out, right?
So Udo, can I ask a quick question because I know as health coaches we do tell people that there are certain oils that are tolerable at higher temperatures, etc. Is that not true either, or like oils or
You want the short answer?
um maybe because I don't know what I'm gonna do after this episode. So yeah,
Okay.
help me
Bullshit. Bullshit.
out.
Yeah, because here's how it goes. The research says when you fry anything in fat or oil, could be hard fats, could be liquid oils, okay? You're turning whatever you're cooking, could be carbs, could be protein, right? First they turn yellow, then they turn brown, then they turn black, and then they start to smoke. So you know you're changing the molecules. And in nature, the mandate for eating is fresh, whole, raw, organic, local for every creature that eats in nature.
Mm.
The only creature in nature that doesn't do that is us, because we think we're smarter than 4 billion years of development of life in nature.
Mm.
That's how arrogant we are, right? So, and then they say, okay, so when you cook in oils, you're damaging the oil, you're damaging the protein, you're damaging the carbs, and the damaged carbs, the damaged proteins, and the damaged oil, all three independent of each other, increase inflammation in your body and increase the risk of cancer.
Hmm.
Now the dietitians, they will say to you, because they're trained for hospital diets, which are disgusting diets.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, frying's not so good for you, but, you got to enjoy your life. So go ahead. Well, that's not health advice.
Mm-hmm.
That's making an excuse for something we shouldn't be doing in the first place.
Mm.
And that means when they tell you that, they're not working for you. They're working for something else. Maybe they're working for the guys who sell you the oil.
Right.
So, and that's just a fact of it, right? Now, if you're going to fry, you get less damage from hard fats. Oils are damaged more than hard fats, but the hard fats don't have the essential fatty acids in them. And 99% of the population doesn't get enough omega-3, and the omega-6s we get are damaged for 1 million damaged molecules for every one of the body's 60 trillion cells in 1 tablespoon. So but when I learned that, I said, man, we should make oils with health in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? You got to protect them from the heat while they're being made, filtered, settled, filled.
Mm-hmm.
And you never use them for frying. You add them to foods after they come off the heat. You want to get omega-3 and 6, the only two things from fats and oils that we have to have. You want to get them in the right ratio because they use the same pathways in the cells. And if you get too much of one, it'll crowd out the other. If you get too much of the other, it'll crowd out the one. So the ratio has to be right. And literally, I started an industry for making oils with health in mind. They call me the father of the healthy fats movement. Mm-hmm. Somebody came up with that. I didn't come up with that, right? And I'm in the Canadian Health Food Association Hall of Fame for starting an industry of making oils with health in mind. Mm. And we started with flaxseed oil because omega-3 is the single most widespread essential nutrient deficiency of our time. 99% of the population doesn't get enough. They are 5 times more sensitive to damage than the omega-6s. So they're a nightmare to work with. Nobody wants to work with them. So
Mm.
we made that our first oil to bring the omega-3s back. And of course, I got really excited. It's like, oh my God, 99% of the population isn't getting their omega-3s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, if we can make them with health in mind and we can bring them to the population, oh my God, we could help almost everybody.
Mm.
And I got so excited. It's like, oh yeah, this is a mission from God.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, oh man, it's kind of like, now there's something worth doing. Just for me. It was like very personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me. And I'm going to do it. And that's how that started. And I had no business background, but
Wow.
I had ton of biochemistry background, which is helpful. And I had enthusiasm up the yin yang.
Wow. So,
Right. And it
yeah.
was all done on enthusiasm. And we made decisions, I made business decisions right and left because I was clear about the standard. What were we doing here? And we wouldn't work with people who wouldn't hold to our standards.
Mm.
And in 2 years, flaxseed oil became the second highest selling oil in the natural foods industry, which is where we were active. 2 years. Took us 2 years.
So, yeah, no, it's an amazing story, and again, we could talk about a lot of different angles, but I guess I definitely want to keep it in a lane, and I guess I'd love to have you
Yeah.
back. We could expand on a lot of different things because we had, like I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah. Well,
so
we want to do that whole total health and human nature stuff,
I know,
right?
I
Yeah,
know.
we'll do it. We'll do that on another one.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I'll write it down, make sure that we don't miss it. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking that how you started, and like again, a health coach who's just starting out is thinking like, hey,
Yeah.
that's a great mission. How did you market this? Because you obviously, like I said, took the world by storm. And how did you get
Yeah.
this message out? You obviously were able to articulate the educational component of what you were doing. And what was that strategy? I'm just curious
Okay.
because
Well, yeah, honestly, when it comes to, I am more of an educator than anything else.
okay.
I love the conversations. I love learning, and I love teaching,
Hmm.
and I love bringing things that I learn that are helpful to me to other people who can benefit from them. That's why I wrote the book. I wasn't making any money. I moved in with my mother when I was how old was I? 83, so 41. I was 41 years old, moved in with my mother because I wanted to write the book. She said, okay, free room and board.
Mm.
And so I wrote the book because I said, what I've learned about fats in dealing with my pesticide poisoning. I learned a lot about fats that I never knew, even though I studied fats in university.
Mm.
And I thought, man, there must be other people who can benefit from what I've learned.
Hmm.
So how do you get that done? Write a book. And then the book finds your audience. The book finds the audiences, and that's what happened. So, and then we went out 1988, we went on a tour in a van without air conditioning in the hottest months of the year, July, August, half of June and half of September. We went through the US, 35 states, 17,000 miles by road, 85 cities in 101 days.
Wow.
And we talked to anybody who would listen to us. And what really made it happen was the enthusiasm we had. I was so on fire. I'm still on, I mean, I'm still on fire.
Yeah.
There's so much can be, more health problems come from damaged oil than any other part of nutrition.
Mm.
So damaged oils are worse than white sugar.
Mm.
White sugar comes close, but damaged oils do more damage. More health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition, and more benefits come from oils made with health in mind than any other change you make in nutrition. But then you have to pick either the seeds and nuts, organic, unroasted, that contain the essential fatty acids, or you have to get the essential fatty acids made with health in mind. They got to be in glass bottles. They got to be in brown glass bottles. We put a box around it to cut the light out because the light damages oils. And you have to use them not in the frying pan. You could put them in hot soup and on steamed veggies, but you never, ever, 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 ever want to use oils made with health in mind for frying because you basically take, you know, you, you're pounding the hell out of the oils with your frying pan,
Right, right, right.
right? So if, from a health perspective, you just don't do that.
So you must feel vindicated now that it's 2025 and this is actually a thing now. Like like a lot of people are talking about the dangers of oils and seed oils
Yeah,
and all these different angles of it. Tell us
yeah,
about that.
yeah. So yeah, that's a good one. Because there's a lot of people now saying don't use seed oils and don't use omega sixes.
Mm,
And there have been maybe 3 books written on that are topical right now. But there have been books like that for the past 45 years. Yeah, I
mm,
got poisoned in 1980. Flax oil came out in 1986,
mm,
right? And so I've been in that industry for that long. All of the people who are writing those books have done half their homework. Because what they're doing is these damaged oils are used in research. Nobody talks about them being damaged.
mm,
That 1%, right? And so then they get negative effects. So then they blame it on the oil when they
mm,
should be blaming it on the damage done to the oils.
mm,
And when I told you, I saw omega-6 is essential and omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you, right?
mm.
Well, they're picking out the cancer and kills you part. They're not, what about the essential nutrient part? And then they try to weasel their way around and saying, oh, you don't need them. If you take enough B vitamins, you don't need essential fatty acids. It's complete BS,
Mm,
right? And so what they have done is they have done all their homework. I looked deeper
mm,
and recognized that it was damage done by processing and by food use that is causing the problems. They don't tell you that. They tell you don't use oils. And you know what's really funny? I've been working in this field for 45 years.
mm,
I've given like 10,000 talks and media interviews. I have a book called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill that sold probably 300,000 copies. I'm not hiding. Not one of the authors of any of these books that diss the seed oils and that diss omega-6s has ever talked to me.
mm.
You would think if you wanted to do your homework, at least you'd want to say what this crazy guy who's a proponent of oils, what kind of thing he's talking about. You'd think. No, but they just and then they scare you and then they sell you something else behind it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
kind of they scare you and then they be your savior. Now, I don't do that. That's stupid. But that's, everybody does it,
Mhm.
right? Not one of them has ever talked to me. Not one of them.
That's wild.
Not one of them. And I know oils.
Oh, yeah.
I know them from the nerd angle. The chemistry and the biochemistry of them, but also know about how to build the machinery for making them.
Right.
And I also know the education, and I also know the people and the food uses, and I also know the difference between the results people get when they use oils made with health in mind and when they use oils that are damaged.
Mhm.
Like that's been my life for 45 years. Not one of them has ever talked to me.
That is unbelievable. So, I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, so there has to be something behind it. That's all I got to say. I'm not gonna belabor that point too much because, obviously the industry is.
But even like supposed health gurus,
Mm,
some very well known ones.
mm,
Not one has ever talked to me. Not one. And I've invited them to talk to me.
yeah,
I've even asked some of them to talk to me. Because I'm trying to help.
yeah, yeah.
I don't take it personally, but I'm trying to help. You can't fix a lie and you can't get good results from bad information. And when you get bad information, you lose your freedom because lying is a form of dictatorship. It takes away your freedom to choose because you can't choose on lies,
Exactly.
right? And so this is a big deal. It's from a person. I mean, it's really a big deal. I mean, you could apply the same kind of logic to everything else that's not working in the world. It's
Right.
all based on lies and people It's like our healthcare system is a disease management system, but
Right.
it's called healthcare. That's a misrepresentation of the service it provides. I'm not saying that it doesn't have a place, but I'm saying call it what it is. It's
Right.
disease management. It's symptom suppression. It's crisis intervention. It's monitoring your road to the graveyard. That's what medicine is, right? And even when it's preventive, it's still focused on disease because we don't even have a definition of what health is. And
Right.
it has to be based on nature and human nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the doctors didn't invent health, and the governments didn't invent health, and the lawyers didn't invent health. Health was invented by life in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And we are creatures that have needs that life determined because we are also part of nature, and we came out of nature, and nature, we were made to be sustained what's in nature, not by synthetic molecules, not by molecules that never existed in nature. That's why they have side effects. They don't belong in the body.
Right.
Right? So you can look at everything that's not working on this planet, and it's always the same. People are not looking for what is true. They're just looking for how they can make a buck, how they can turn a buck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very interesting, the times we live in.
Yeah. I think that's serendipitously how we can end this particular call, because that has kind of brought us to full circle how we want to take part two, because this is exactly the
Yeah, part
question we
T
had.
about what is human nature and what is total health based in nature and human nature. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, let's do it. That's even more fun than the oil story.
No, absolutely. And the oil story
It's
is great. And I know, like, again, like the health coaches out there not only learned a little bit more about health today, but they were definitely
yeah.
inspired by your story and your journey and how
Hey,
you,
if you ever want to do a live with them, I don't know if you do that, but if you ever want to do a live where they can ask questions and get into the weeds about all
oh
the
yeah,
stuff,
yeah. That might, yeah, let me write that. Yeah, I could definitely check that out. That would be
I
really,
mean,
that would be
yeah. I mean, I'm here to help. If they can give better advice, they will get better results. That'll be good for the career, but it'll be particularly from my perspective, good for the clients they have.
yeah, no,
We
absolutely.
could all live way, 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 way better quality lives than we do.
Mm-hmm. No,
But there are rules and principles. There are components and principles that we need to put in place in order to do that.
no, for
And
sure.
if we don't know what the principles or the components are, then we don't know what to put in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
knowledge is power. That's for sure.
yeah, especially when acted on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
especially
absolutely.
when put into practice.
Amen. Amen to
Yeah.
that. So, Udo, you've been fantastic. I want to give you an opportunity to just let the audience know where to get all the information
Oh,
via your
well,
web, social media.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. I'm
You have a website?
I, I'm on Facebook. Yeah, I have a website, udoerasmus.com. It's a dog's breakfast right now. We're making a lot of changes on it.
Oh, okay.
But it's udoerasmus.com or Udo Erasmus on Facebook.
Okay.
And if you want to hear some of my other podcasts, um, Udo Erasmus / podcasts on Facebook. There's some, and there are some of the podcasts are on the website, my website as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, we'll definitely keep a lookout, and then yeah, we'll go for part two. And I appreciate
Yeah,
you jumping on the show again and just
yeah.
having a little bit of yeah, this is amazing. And I'm glad
Create
that
create a little excitement.
yeah, yeah. Sounds good. All right, have a great rest of the day.
All right, you too. All right.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden, It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.